afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all well. Happy Friday, wherever you are joining us right around Australia, somebody overseas as well. We have got our Be Fit Foods live today. I'm a little bit more casual today. A big hello to everyone joining me. Hey, Chef Jason Roberts, great to see you. I'm going to invite Miss Kate so that she can come on board. She's got a very important function tonight and she's coming on specially, so I'm really excited about it. Is everybody ready for the weekend? So we're going to sum up everything that we've spoken about. So we're going to talk about all the things that we talked about throughout the year and sum it up, get ready for New Year's, and then we'll come back in the new year with some exciting new things happening. Just see. Neither Kate nor I are the best at technical. Let's see if she's got this one. Drum roll.
Hello, how are you, Karen?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. You look like you've got a beautiful tan there today.
Oh, it's all coming from a can. I wish it was real, but we've had so much rain in Sydney. Yesterday was fine and sunny. Today is fine and sunny, so it's amazing. But because it's such a shock to our system, because we've had so much rain, it's a little bit hard to get motivated to go out into the sun, right?
Absolutely.
Plus, it's better for us to have it out as well. And you're getting ready for a big function tonight, so we won't keep you too long, but I was just explaining that we are going to sum up everything that we've talked about throughout the year, from intermittent fasting through to DNA testing, through to different foods, preparing ourselves for the silly season so that everybody can get a little bit of an overview, which I think is amazing heading into the new year. And then obviously we'll come back in January with something exciting, preparing ourselves for the year ahead and setting some goals, which I think is important for everybody to sort of set some goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing is really what you do now will set you up for the new year. So I think it's really important for people to think about that compensation theory that we've talked about all year. And we all know that we're having Christmas parties and dining out and drinking more than perhaps we would during the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. However, I think it's really important to think about how you compensate for that. So I know that you're a fitness advocate and you eat really well, but what do you do? If you're having a big night, what do you do to compensate for that?
I think exactly what you said, because most days I'm never one to sort of go all out. So I'm not someone who just goes healthy or someone who just binges. I'm pretty lucky that I naturally gravitate to fairly healthy foods unless I've been drinking, which I'm not a big drinker. But if I have been drinking, the next day it's Uber Eats, it's McDonald's. I'm not very good. But I try. Because I am so good throughout the year, I don't necessarily have to compensate for huge times, but I just try to make sure that, okay, I'm going out on Friday night. Let's make sure in the lead up to that, I'm eating really well, not drinking alcohol during the week. Yeah. If I know Christmas parties are coming up, I just won't touch alcohol outside of going to those things. And some of them I say, that one I won't drink, that one I won't drink. I'll make sure I drive so that I'm not encouraged to drink. Because I think that sometimes you arrive at a function and everybody says, come on, have a drink. If you're driving, you're not as likely to do that. So you've got to pick your days. I'm very much moderation. It's okay if you have a really big night. Last night I had a couple of wines at the Stone Awards, their yearly awards. And then today I've eaten amazing. So you've just got to have that balance, I think.
Yeah, and I think what you said is really important too, that you eat well the rest of the year. And I think there's lots of studies actually on calorie restriction, and even just having a 10% calorie restriction, which you wouldn't even notice. Imagine only eating 90% of what's on your plate all the time and just leaving that 10%. Yeah. They say that can extend your life by up to 4.5 years. So the Japanese actually have this theory too, that they only eat to 80% fullness. And that is what, it's ingrained in them to not overeat. And I think we'd all be more comfortable if we thought about that a little bit more. And not just the short-term result, but that longevity is really important for the long term as well, I think.
Yeah, and I think for us here in Australia, our parents raised us, I know my parents did, raised us to eat everything on your plate, don't waste anything. And if you go to a restaurant, I hate the chefs feeling like I've left something on the plate because they always cook such wonderful food. And I always feel for them if a plate comes back empty, obviously it makes the chef feel amazing as well. So I have actually been trying to do that all year since we did the topic on intermittent fasting and reducing calories. What I've tried to do is instead of in the past where I would have had a full piece of steak and then some potatoes and some salad, whatever it may be, I've tried halving that. So I'll say to my younger son, who's not a huge eater, I'll give him half the steak, me half the steak. If we're hungry after that, then that's one thing. But it's actually training your body, and that takes a process to eating less and less because it is a mindset. Finish everything on your plate, fill the plate so it looks amazing and you've got all this gorgeous food, but then of course you're eating too much.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting, we've talked a lot about your personal DNA, and you did the My DNA tests as well. And look, some people aren't as lucky as others. If they do have an obesity gene or an appetite regulation gene that's not favorable, what happens is they actually gain weight more easily than somebody else, and they actually can't burn body fat as well as somebody else. And it's not to say that you can't override that, but they may have a 40 to 60% higher incidence or higher chance of becoming overweight by eating a particular way. But what they can actually say with exercise is that 30 to 60 minutes a day of exercise, depending on that gene and whether it's moderate or high, actually can completely outweigh the genetics. So it is 100% about your lifestyle. So all you need to know is if you do have that FTO gene that you can get from your My DNA test, you just need to be more mindful about what you're eating all the time, because the little slip-ups will be the things that set you back a lot, as opposed to, knowing that if you do slip up, that you can compensate and go straight, go back to your healthy normal. And, we're not all the same genetically.
Absolutely. Now, does that work in reverse? I actually watched a TV program only about a month ago, and it was Khloe Kardashian's Revenge Body. Where they get exercise and they work on the way they look and all of the rest of it. An amazing show. But there was a girl on there, and she was wanting to lose weight and get into shape, and she was working out with the trainer. She was doing everything right, and they kept weighing her, and she wasn't losing the weight. And of course the show and the producers and everything were saying, you must be binging at home, you must be doing something. And she's like, I swear I'm not. I'm eating hardly anything. I'm eating what you've given me to eat, because they'd given her a specific diet to reduce the calories to what they felt would help her lose weight. And what they then did is a blood test later on down the track, which I didn't understand, that meant that because she was eating such little calories, her body wasn't burning. So she actually needed to eat more. So it works in reverse as well, right?
It does. And I think until you understand your own body, it's very hard to get the most out of it. And that's why what works for one person won't always work for the next person too. So at the end of the day, what they say is if you do have this obesity gene, that having a slightly higher protein diet and a slightly higher fiber in your diet, it actually triggers your appetite regulation. So you actually feel your fullness more than what you would otherwise, and you're satisfied or satiated quicker. So you don't have the same cravings that you would have with this gene otherwise. So that extra protein is something that they found that actually can help undo the damage from having that gene that can lead you to overeating.
Wow. And just quickly, for those people who are tuning in for the first time, I know that some of our listeners have tuned in a lot, but let's just talk about My DNA, because this is a test that we can get, that we're talking about, that we spent quite some time on. You can get tested to what foods you react to, whether you should be exercising a lot in cardio or whether you should be doing more weight training. Just to quickly explain exactly what we can achieve from that.
Yeah, it's just a little mouth swab, and you literally have a little stick that you put it in your mouth, you put it in an envelope, it's reply paid, send it off, and 2 weeks later in your app that you download, you can start to see some of your DNA results, and even things like your caffeine processing. So for a lot of people, I know you don't like caffeine, you can't process that. It has a really negative effect.
My body.
Yeah, whereas other people, I know I can have it in the morning and I've got what they call a moderate gene, so I can process it up to a certain point, but beyond that, I can't sleep. And they were saying there are other people that process it so quickly that they literally can have caffeine right before bed and they're still okay. However, people like me or you that don't process it that quickly, not only does it affect us at the time, but it affects our sleep cycle overnight. So you won't get as well rested. And the trigger with that is if you don't sleep, the next day you have higher cortisol or stress levels, and that leads you to higher blood sugar levels, higher insulin levels, and you start craving foods and start eating the wrong thing, all because of the caffeine. It sets off this stress response in some people. So
And I think that that is something that's vital, because I know a lot of people at the moment, it seems like everybody's trying to lose weight, hitting maturity and, mature age, and then just saying, I can't budget. All the things that I used to do when I was younger to drop it off, it's just not coming off. And just by getting that simple test, and essentially that test is helping with everything that we've talked about throughout the year, in the sense that sleep can help, can maybe keep that weight on, it cause, and stress, and all of those things start to accumulate because of one or two little factors that you're incorporating in your everyday life that doesn't actually agree with your DNA, and totally putting a blocker to your goals.
absolutely. And the simple things that we always come back to is that intermittent fasting, it's so easy to only eat for sort of 8 hours of the day, every other day, or a couple of times a week. And that has a really good effect on metabolism. So if you fast for 16 hours, let's say you eat only between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m., or 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., you fast for the other 16 hours. And what that can do is actually bring your blood sugar levels back down and your fat storage hormone insulin, help you get some fat off the liver, and help you to sort of compensate and get some of that weight off that can be really hard to budge. And even with the intermittent fasting, you don't need to be as strict with your calories, because you've done a lot of the restriction and the resetting overnight too.
Just quickly, I want to talk, because I know we're trying to cover quite a lot of topics that we've summed up throughout the year. Let's talk about the fact that, is it a myth or is it fact? If you can lose a lot of weight, does it help or hinder your progress long term?
Yeah, I love being asked this question, because I think a lot of people out there have heard that slow and steady wins a race. And they've also heard that if you lose weight fast, you're going to regain it fast and even regain more. That is all wrong. The newest science actually shows the complete reverse, that if you can lose weight rapidly in the first 12 weeks, 6 months, 2 years later, you are far more likely to have kept the weight off, and not just the weight, but you're far more likely to have kept the health change or the health improvement. And at the end of the day, our weight doesn't matter. It's our health that matters, or our body fat levels. So somebody may not have a high weight, but if their body fat percentage is high, it can still lead to type 2 diabetes. So it's really important to think about health and body fat percentage more so than just weight on the scales. But I mean, weight on the scales is really easy as a marker to monitor change, but it shouldn't be the only marker that you use. It should be more health markers.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we're leading up to it. I seem to have something on every single day, every single night. What are some of the key tips that you can give us to, you talked before about preparing or compensating for a bad night, but what are some of the things that we can really set ourselves a goal on, moving into this silly season, moving into the new year? And it is that real balance. We say that, that moment between the end of January and Christmas is like no man's land. Nobody knows what day it is. Nobody knows where we're going. What are some of the tips during that time that we can start to focus on, sort of between now and that end of January, having a crazy season and then an idle season?
One of the simplest things is most people actually don't drink water regularly enough throughout the day. So not only don't they drink enough, but they don't drink it every hour. And the problem with that is we actually start to confuse our thirst for hunger. So it can lead us to having cravings and wanting more food and not feeling satisfied, but it's actually a feeling of thirst, not of hunger. So a really quick tip is to make sure that you have a small glass of water every hour. So rather than carrying around your big 1 litre drink bottle and only drinking it in the morning and at night, you've got to sip through it every hour. That's a really important thing you can do. And if you're getting more water in throughout the day, even when you go to events, try, have a glass of champagne, but have a glass of sparkling water or something else in between to break up the drinking, because we've done a whole segment on alcohol, and I can tell you, if you've got weight loss goals, the alcohol will pour saliva and stop you burning anything else other than alcohol. It converts the things that you eat into body fat, and we can compensate for that and we can get it off later. However, you can really stop that kind of reverse effect by mixing your alcohol with water or sparkling water in between, and just doing less of that damage that you have to correct later.
And one change I've made, I can't have lemon, but I have lime. So when I'm drinking alcohol, I do put some lime juice and, squeeze the limes and then put the lime in the ice water and drink that as I'm going, because alcohol is acidic, and even though you've got the lemon lime that's acid, it has an alkaline effect in your body. So I always find that really helps as well if you are drinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And that helps to control appetite too. So they say things like the acid in the lemon and lime, or even like a lot of people have apple cider vinegar and all those sorts of things. It actually offsets appetite. So it can shut down appetite and help you get back that control. And another thing would be just making sure when you are out that if there are options that are more plant-based options, they've got the dietary fiber in them. They also help curb the appetite without the high calorie levels too. So the dietary fiber helps there. And the protein foods. I know we've talked about if you're getting little healthy platters and bits and pieces, or even unhealthy platters, if there's little party pies or sausage rolls going around, try and unwrap the wrapper and have the filling. Like, you don't have to eat everything that comes around. And if there are healthier options like the sushi or the rice paper rolls or those sorts of things, go for them first. And if it is all a big fry up and all the pastries, then try and leave behind some of the pastry and just have the protein, because the protein will fill you up, whereas the pastry will drive you to eat more because of the carbs and the highly processed carbs.
So true. Even the little tip that you did the other week where, instead of putting a tray of bickies next to the dip, do some carrots and celery and veggie sticks, so that you're still having that same sensation. You still got the dip going, you're still eating whilst you're drinking. Sometimes it is that something while you're drinking, having something to eat at the same time. So even just changing that makes a remarkable difference.
Absolutely. And you can still have your piece of cheese there, and that's quite satisfying. And, cheese and celery that blue cheese and celery is like my all-time favorite thing, with a glass of red wine. So there's lots of ways to still enjoy it, but not feel like you've overdone it and you have to compensate. And even today, I've done a piece on LinkedIn about sugar, and I think if we can understand the effects that it has on our body, so really trying to avoid the sugary based alcoholic drinks, because sugar is actually now known to be more addictive than cocaine. So it's unbelievable how powerful it is and what it does to our brain, to our pleasure center and our dopamine. And it actually tricks us. And they've done lots of studies in rats and mice where they've looked at offering them sugar sweetened water or cocaine, and then they swap them over, and it's unbelievable how the mice have a preference for the sugar sweetened water over the cocaine. And then when they make it more difficult, so they've got an obstacle to surpass to get the sugar compared to the cocaine, they'll actually work harder to get the sugar than they will the cocaine. And I think as extreme as that is, we need to understand that the sugar plays a trick on our bodies and on our brain and our mind. And that is part of the reason why a lot of people have a true sugar addiction or a carb addiction, because it is addictive and we don't talk about it. It's, it's really...
Just on that note, Christmas is coming, and during that festive season, there's lollies on the table, there's pavlovas, there's fruit cake, there's all those yummy things, shortbread biscuits that we have at Christmas time. And of course, on top of the fact that there's a lot of sugar in a lot of the foods, and then you've also got all the condiments that you have with lunch, etc., on top of the sugar, there's also the amount of food that we're eating. You talked about only eating to 80% full. That is impossible at Christmas time. So do we need to, post-Christmas, go cold turkey on the sugar? Are there any other tips that we can do on, because our calorie intake just inevitably goes up, because at Christmas you're going to go for the extra potatoes and the extra meat, not because you're hungry, but because it tastes so good. And often Christmas is a smorgasbord with prawns and, the hot meats and the beautiful vegetables and salad and pavlova. And, so you do tend to eat just because it's there. How do we detox from that? How do we bring that calorie down in a safe way?
I would say the best thing to do is give yourself a date to do a reset. So we've talked about a metabolism reset. And I think if you can prepare yourself and set a date in mind when you're going to start, that is the most important thing. Go through the season, enjoy it, but commit to actually doing something about it. So pick a date, whether it's the 4th of Jan or 5th of Jan, 2nd of Jan, whenever it is, and just go cold turkey. So take out all of those sugary foods, detox from the alcohol for 2 weeks, let the body get back to that ground zero. So shrink the liver again, the fat storage hormone goes down, but you have to have that reset. If you're going to go all out, you have to go all out the other way to undo it. Otherwise, we end up with these Christmas kilos that hang on all year. So you can't just moderate after going all out, because if you do that, you'll never get that weight off. You'll just stay at that new weight. And it's really important to shock the metabolism and actually get that weight off, because every extra kilo that we put on actually does damage to our bodies, particularly if it's body fat. So 1 kilo of weight is actually 4 kilos on our knees. So if you put on 5 kilos, that's 20 kilos on your knees. So it causes injury, it makes us tired, it makes us breathless, and it puts that extra pressure on our circulatory system and our heart as well. Let alone, you don't feel the greatest in your clothes. And I think if your mood's low because you're feeling like that, then it's hard to be up and about and bright and happy all the time. So I think, do something good for you. And I'm not saying that weight matters. It's not your weight. It's actually getting to a point where you feel comfortable in your clothes again. Because if you feel uncomfortable, you come across as being not as, as happy as you could be. So, and
not just your clothes, but your skin. When you've got that inflammation in your body because you are having too much sugar, you are carrying too much weight, everything's affected. So even if you're not necessarily, because sometimes the kilos can creep up and you don't realize until you put on a pair of jeans in the wintertime that you go, maybe I picked up a few extra kilos, but you can see it in your face. Just a quick question, because I know it probably seems like a silly question, but so people who have coffee every single day, or people that have alcohol every single day, when they give up that, they go through a bit of a withdrawal symptom. So I know for a lot of people, if they don't have that coffee, they can find themselves with the onset of a headache, or if they suffer from migraines. Do we have symptoms of giving up sugar other than our craving, other than the fact that we really want it and we miss it? Is there anything that we'll be experiencing to look out for?
It's actually really, really horrendous. So the first thing that happens if you do have a true sugar addiction, so if you're someone who finds you actually need it every day and you rely on it, or you need it every few hours, what will happen initially is you have a bit of a crash because your blood sugar levels will go down low. You might feel a bit dizzy, you might even feel nauseous, and you've got to actually...
A bit nauseous.
A bit nauseous, yeah, it'll make you feel a bit sick, and you have to be able to sit with that feeling and know what it is to be able to work through it. Whereas if you give into it and just have the sugar, you'll never be able to undo the sugar addiction. So as your blood sugar levels are going down, what you can do is make sure that you're having the right amount of protein, healthy fats, enough water to keep the blood pressure up. So the dizziness is related to the sugar, not the blood pressure. And obviously, if you're on medications, maybe you actually need to adjust some of the medication because it may be related to your blood sugar levels. But aside from that, the longer you go without it, the less the addiction. And I think when they talk about the sugar and the cocaine being super addictive, and even the sugar being more addictive than that, you've really got to withdraw yourself slowly, pull out those foods day by day, and you'll feel this lower level. But then if you're putting in the healthy fats and you're starting to burn your own body fat as an energy source, it suppresses your appetite at a brain level. And all of a sudden, this gut-brain connection comes into place and you start to feel well again. But it takes 2 to 4 days. So it's 2 to 4 days of pain, and then things start to go back to normal. And that dopamine...
It's the sort of thing that you need to know, because I didn't even know the sort of things that we might be feeling. And so if you're not aware of that, I mean, people say if you give up caffeine, you'll get a headache. You know, that's quite common. But if you know the symptoms and you can then push through them. If you're not sure what they are and you just go, I'm feeling a bit nauseous, maybe I might have a packet of chips, or maybe I might go for a cup of tea with sugar in it just to settle my stomach. But you're actually feeding the problem.
Absolutely. And it's the dopamine trigger, which is our pleasure or reward hormone. So what they say the problem with sugar is it intensely triggers our reward center in our brain. It lights us up. We feel like it's Christmas morning and we're a kid again when we have sugar. Like, that's literally the feeling that it ignites in our brain. And so when you take that sugar away from someone and you don't give them another pleasure, they'll feel sad and they'll have a low mood. So the other things that trigger are dopamine, sunshine, and we've also got exercise that really helps as well. So that feeling, once you get past the first sort of 4 minutes of exercise, and all of a sudden you're breathing easier, you've got the endorphin release, we've got this gamma being released in our brain, and then you'll get this reward or pleasure feeling after the exercise too. And sexual relationships, socialization. So surround yourself by good people and good company, and then the sugar withdrawal won't be as bad, but you need to put that pleasure back into the brain.
Yeah, right. So I know you're limited with time because you've got a very special function coming up tonight. So just in summing up, what do you think are some of the key tips for people that we've talked about throughout the year?
Very much. Make sure you have a good time. You don't feel like you're on a diet all of the time. However, know that at some point you do need to compensate from that, and you probably do need a seasonal reset. So after Christmas, after Easter, maybe after birthdays or holidays, do your body a favor, 1 or 2 weeks, and do a proper reset. Cut back the calories, increase all of the plant-based foods, cut out the alcohol, drink loads of water, and let your body detox, literally detox, and do a reset, and your body will thank you for it. And you may even add years to your life through that process. And the other thing would be just making sure that you are, wherever possible, do the compensation close to the day. So if you've got a big event that night, then have a lighter day or the next day. Maybe intermittent fasting, maybe fasting for 16 hours and only eating the next day between 12 and 8 or 10 and 6. So eating in the 8-hour period, fasting for 16, and loads of water. Don't confuse your thirst for hunger. So make sure every hour...
That's a really good one.
Yeah, every hour, drink some water. It doesn't have to be much, but it can't be just a litre at the start of the day and a litre at the end. It has to be continuous throughout the day.
Or if you are feeling like maybe I need some sugar, maybe I need some food, you can't just have a litre of water and then that feeling will go away. You've got to consistently do it throughout the day, yeah?
Yeah, and the protein will help with that as well. So protein and fibre control our appetite. So if you can get protein in at every single meal, and we did a whole episode talking about carb to protein ratio, so trying to match your carbs and protein. And for most people, they eat too many carbs and too little protein. But if you can match the two, carbs aren't evil, but they need to be matched well. Otherwise, they can spike our blood sugar levels and trigger our appetite.
Absolutely. Well, I will let you go. I want to say thank you to everyone who's tuned in. If you have just tuned in and you like what you hear about learning all about losing weight, managing your sugar cravings, managing the Christmas festive season, we are going to be coming back in January. This is our last live until January. So we're all going to do a reset 2022. Kate has committed. You're going to come on board and help us out. We're going to, throughout the year, motivate and excite people. Come on the journey with us, and if you want any more information on anything we've talked about, it is all on Be Fit Foods. You can also get the food, which is another thing that I always recommend, Kate, because one of the things that happens the next morning. If we've got 3 or 4 Christmas parties in a row, or we're really busy at this time of the year, often because there's nothing in the fridge to eat, you will go for, you know, takeaway, or you will grab something really easy like toast or bread or rolls, things that you want to cut out on. So if you've got those pre-prepared meals in there, it's a matter of putting them in the microwave and away you go, and you've got all of that nutrition coming right for you. So get on to Be Fit Foods, have a look. They've got dietitians there to help you out. You can also get more information on the DNA testing. And for those of you that have joined us every fortnight, Kate, I think get your DNA tested over Christmas, New Year. Go and do the My DNA. Come back fresh, reset, know what you're up for, and know what your body can do.
Actually, for Christmas, we put the My DNA kits on the Be Fit Food website for sale for 30% off. And one of our staff actually bought 2 of them for gifts for teachers at the school, because I thought, if you can't understand your own DNA and what you should be eating, like, it's an important thing, like, empower the teachers, and then the teachers get that information. They can teach our children how important it is to know your body and eat for your body type, and, you know, understand the science behind our bodies. So yeah, 30% off the My DNA kits until Christmas. So good Christmas present.
That's fantastic, isn't it? And I know all the prices on all the food are amazing as well. I've done it myself. I just love it. I know so many people at work that has been on Be Fit and continue to be on Be Fit Foods, whether it is to go on. I know you have so many different programs, so you can go on a particular program for that set time, but even just keeping those meals in your fridge so that you know when you want to be able to balance out the tough days, that you're balancing it out with food that has been proven and scientifically researched.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me this year, Karen. I'm very grateful. I love talking nutrition. That's been such a pleasure.
Yeah, we can see your passion, and I love having you on. You know that this is not a paid segment. I have nothing to do with Be Fit Foods other than I am passionate about, I love listening to Kate. She's passionate about food. And for me, heading towards, you know, my next decade, I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. So I just love the information and so much great feedback on the website. So Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Have an amazing night.
See you all in the new year. Thank you. I'll hopefully
take care, everyone.
See you soon. Bye.
Yes, we'll be live, actually live.
Absolutely, in the new year. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.